Okay, so I have a fun story to share today, and it kind of incorporates spirituality and human design. So, this is really about how the universe aligns with us. Sorry, the camera was moving. How the universe aligns with us when we follow our strategy and authority. All right. So, I want to make another video about this because I've actually received my second invitation since learning about human design. So I wanted, like, it's a cool story, so I want to talk about that story, but this is kind of like the part three of it, like my process for, which I think is like the standard process is for projectors, right? You receive an invitation, then you, and that's your strategy, right? And then you use your authority to make the decision, right? And sometimes, depending on what your authority is, that might take a bit of time, or, I don't know, unless you're like only have your spleen and your root defined, I think you're still going to have a process. Like if you have anything else in your chart defined, or your split definition, then you're going to have another process that you go through. So this would be like the only case where you wouldn't have some time that you're taking to make your decision is if you're splenic authority and if you are a single definition. So that would be like the only case. You'd probably be able to make a really fast decision. But in my case, I like to talk about it. I like to like mull it over. So I have like three parts to my process. I go, whatever the invitation is, and then I mull it over and I like analyze it and I talk about it. And then I create like a non-negotiable list, like if the person is looking for whatever, this thing, then I'll know it's like an automatic no for me. So I kind of like, it's kind of like you're investing. Like I don't really invest, but I know what the, process is, because I'm wanting to get into investing. Anyways, the thing is that like you can set like a little like benchmark so that if the price goes to, if it drops to a certain price, then you will buy at that amount, or if it raises to a certain amount, then you'll sell at that amount, and so this is like my like safeguard for decision making, that like if they say this thing, if they say that, they want whatever, I'll know for myself that it's like an automatic no. So it feels like I'm the one who's like making the decision, or like, stopping the process, but really it's like I'm like letting the universe do it for me. Like I've already like pre-decided what I want out of this situation, and if it doesn't fall into that, it's like I don't let my mind take over. I remove my mind from the whole process, and I go like, it must not be right, I anyways, I don't need to kill this idea. That's the process. Yes, so getting back to the process about uh, spirituality and strategy and authority. So when we are following our strategy and authority, and in this case, I was, right? So felt really good about the invitation, was mulling it over, analyzing it. And then I think that also as projectors, I think everybody, but I'm speaking to my projector people, that we have to utilize our cognition as well. Like we got to just like, utilize everything that we can utilize. And so what I experienced in this invitation was I was starting to get like a little bit of a weird feeling, like I asked a question, and then the way that the person responded was a bit like, it just didn't quite sit right with me. And there was nothing like bad about it, like anybody who would be walking by who would look at that text or, response would just be like, just totally normal. But for myself, and my cognition is feeling cognition, I was just like, I'm just getting a weird vibe from this, and like for me, when I said those words, I was like, if it's a weird vibe, it's a weird vibe, you know? Like, I'm not going to try and convince myself that I'm just like thinking too much into it or whatever. I'm like, and then I always like to test out different scenarios. I like to be like, okay, if the person had responded in this way, like in a different way, would I still have this like weird vibe feeling? And I'm like, no, I wouldn't, because I was looking for a specific response. You know, I was like, I asked a question and I thought it was a reasonable question. And then I got a weird response. And so for me, that's an indicator. And so then I'm always testing it, being like, okay, so I had like a meeting, like a Zoom meeting scheduled with this person. And it was a potential, I thought it was like a job opportunity, but that was also another like weird thing I asked about it, like was like, can you briefly describe like, you know, what the role is with, you know, some general responsibilities and like how much of a time commitment you're looking for, right? And the response was like, I'll be able to explain this better over Zoom, which I'm like, I kind of expected, but I even gave her an example of like, you know, this is what I think it might be. So I wasn't asking for a full like novel. I was just asking for like, what is it? You know, like tell me something about it. And I didn't get the satisfying response that I was looking for. And then on top of that, she was like, and I also want to clarify that it's not like a job opportunity, it's a potential business project. And I was like, you know, I'm like, I am an open-minded person, whatever, but that was like my weird vibe flag number 2. You know, I was like, okay, so it's like there's ambiguity around it to begin with. And so, you know, I'm sure a lot of things would have been clarified with the Zoom call. But the thing that I want to point out about this was I was like getting a weird vibe. I'm like, okay. And then also how important it is to know like that you're a projector, because the next part of this story is totally different based on the fact that I know I'm a projector. So the thing I want to mention about that is that when I have certain things that I need to schedule, like previously, I would just kind of like stack my schedule and be like, oh, like it's fine, like, you know, not really think too much about it. But now I was like, I had 4 things that I had to like do this week, you know? And so one thing was the Zoom call. She was wanting to like, you know, have a call. Another thing was I'm in a personal, like a woman's personal development course thing, and so they have like a live training every Monday, and it's like Monday evening. And so the other 2 things were I am recertifying as a personal trainer, so I had to like, you know, update my CPR certification. And so also the training center for the CPR thing is close to a Costco, so I was like, okay, like I just wanted to do like a gentle Costco run, nothing like too crazy, because I knew I would be tired from the CPR certification, which is the next part of this whole thing about how important it is to know you're a projector for how you schedule like every part of your life and how you manage your sleep and the rest that you take when you have like a higher intensity day that requires a lot of your energy, right? And so what I did was I was like, okay, originally, so I have the women's course on Monday nights, right? I had the CPR course scheduled for Wednesday morning. And then now I'm making the Zoom call, and I'm just like, she, you know, the time that we decided was Wednesday evening. And so like already when she was like suggesting that time, we were trying to find a time, I was like, okay. And I already had this feeling that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be tired. I know I'm not gonna get enough sleep the night before this, you know, certification, because my schedule is, you know, kind of off right now. And the course starts at 9 o'clock, and I've basically been getting up between 9:30 and 10:30 basically. So I knew I was going to be tired. My sleep, my circadian rhythm is just like on a different system right now. And so then I'm like, oof, I'm going to be there, you know, for however many hours doing the course. And then I'm going to be at Costco for a bit. And then I'm going to have to bring those, you know, items back. and then I'm gonna have this chunk of time, like I could take a nap, okay, and then I'm gonna have to have like a call at 8 p.m. Like the whole thing was just kind of like not quite sitting well with me. And so then I had this moment, and it was on Sunday afternoon, and I was like, something's just not quite right. I'm gonna message her, and I'm gonna be like, let's reschedule. My schedule has changed a bit, and Wednesday doesn't work for me anymore. So just wanted to let you know as soon as possible, and let's find another time that works. And also the thing is, when I met her, I was like, really eager. So I asked her what her human design is, and she like looked it up, and she's a manifester. So, and it's kind of weird. I don't know if this is my own like belief pattern that's coming through, or if it's just like real shit and it's just taking me some time to like actually adopt it. But I feel like I have not, like I don't vibe so well with manifestors, and I don't know what it is. Like I have a friend that I get along with really well, and it turns out she's a manifester. My grandma is a manifester, but I'm not quite sure. It's something that I need to like explore in my deconditioning, but I feel like there's some thing that doesn't quite vibe with me and manifestors. Just saying. Sorry if you're a manifestor and you're watching this, I'm sorry, but it's it's not a personal thing. It's just what is correct for you. And maybe manifestors are not correct for me because I need to be like super laser focused on projectors. Not sure. Anyways, back to this whole thing. So I send the message, and she's just like, blah blah blah. Oh, that's when she says about she doesn't give me that straight answer, because I'm like, why am I going to be having this call if I don't even know like what this position is, or like what anything about this is really. It's like super, like such little information has been given. And 8 p.m. is not an ideal time for me to have a Zoom call, for everything else in my life. So another thing that just wasn't quite sitting right. And then the thing that the magical thing that started to happen after this, the Monday night call happens to be rescheduled. It's the only time that this has ever happened. I'm ready to go for the start time of the call, and I realize, and it's like, oh, it's actually been rescheduled to Wednesday. And I'm like, wow, that was just like divine intervention. I didn't even know that I wasn't going to be available on Wednesday, but somehow intuitively on Sunday, I'm like, I'm just going to change my call, like how wild is that? I think that it's just like, as I started to take steps towards like really scrutinizing this invitation and seeing like, and honoring the feelings of like, I'm not quite sure if this is actually correct for me. It was like the universe started to like show me signs about how it really was not correct. Because afterwards I'm quite certain that it actually is not the right opportunity for me, or it's just really not the right time, It's not sure, but one of those two things is definitely wrong. So, the next thing that happened was on Tuesday, I wanted to call the like CPR place, because they have this thing that if there's not enough people signed up, then they have to cancel the class because it's just not worth it to run, And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to change this day as well, because now that the like woman's course is on Wednesday, I'm for sure going to be exhausted. So I'm like, I am not scheduling this higher intensity morning, where I'm having not enough sleep, and I'm, expending energy by learning and like CPR, it's like physically intensive. And then I'm going to have this like super long evening as well. I was like, no go. And so and this is why like the spleen is so cool. And like this whole process, me talking about it helps me discover this. And then I get this like instantaneous, like splenic hit to be like, all right, here's what you need to do right now. And I'm sitting there, and it's like Tuesday morning, and I'm like, I'm just going to call them right now, and I could have done something else. I was actually in the process of doing something else, and I just stopped what I was doing and I called them. And it turns out that they didn't have like there was an issue with my email, so I wasn't getting the emails. And then the person I was talking to was like, oh, you know what? We just a few minutes ago received an email from the boss saying that tomorrow's class is canceled. And I was like, no way. I was just calling to reschedule. And we had this really beautiful moment, and it was like so cool because I was able to change my email and then get the confirmation email that would have told me it was canceled. You know, I wouldn't have even gotten that information if I hadn't thought that I needed to change the day. And so now I'm like, everything is working out so well, right? So now I've changed it to Thursday, right? Instead of Wednesday, the CPR thing, it's now Thursday. So I didn't have the Zoom call that would have taken up energy. I shifted the CPR course, and now I'm doing like the Wednesday night women's program with like a full night's sleep beforehand. Because also, especially with like COVID and everything, I really make sure that if I ever have to like go out and interact with people, I make sure that I get like a really good night's sleep leading up to that. If I can't, like the night before, especially if I'm not going to be able to get one the night before, and I knew that I wouldn't, I needed to make sure that night before that night was a good night's sleep. So another thing I wanted to mention, going back to the message that she sent. So I was getting this really weird vibe from it. And then with how everything was like working out so well in this direction, when I decided not to have the call, I was like, I just got this feeling. I'm like, I think it's just not the right time or not the right opportunity. And I have like some time sensitive things going on in like this season of life. And so I'm like, if I say yes to this, then I'm going to really like jeopardize the progress that I'm making in this other area. So I'm like, okay, it's not the right time. I need to say no to this opportunity. And so I send her this message, and it's like, I want to also add that like throughout this entire back and forth experience, I've been like an upstanding citizen, like so incredibly professional of, letting her know as soon as I knew, being respectful, like asking questions politely. Like it was just like, whatever. And then, so I send this message saying, I think that it's not the right time, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather stop here than move forward and then realize that it's just, I'm not able to add another responsibility to my plate, basically. And then I said, like, I hope you find an excellent person to fill this position. And the message that I got back from her just seemed really like cold. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to say cold in the sense, but maybe that's just what my feeling cognition felt. Like, I think like maybe I was just expecting a different response. I'm not sure. But how it ended, nicely, like in a warm way. But I just knew in that moment, based on what I sent, the responses that I was getting back, and then that response, I was like, I for sure made the right decision. For sure. And you never know how things are going to be like, oh, and I think I maybe said that was like, maybe we can revisit this down the line, like she mentioned before, and see if it like the opportunity comes back around. And it just kind of seemed like it was like, okay, like all the best to you, anyways. But and then here's the really cool part. Here's where like the spirituality aspect comes in, right? So now everything that's like, I won't bore you with all the details because they're magical to me, but maybe not to everybody who's listening to this. But it's just, when you're so in alignment and every single thing that you need is available to you, everything is smooth, your car drives well and you find that parking spot, and it's like, it just seems like everything is just like beautifully falling into place, like unfolding in like the best way ever, right? And so that's essentially what happened. Like the moment that I said no to the invitation, and now I'm rescheduled for Thursday. Today is Thursday. And it's like everything just went so well. Even the night before, like having dinner prepared, it was like the timing of everything, going to bed at a moderately decent time. And even like, and here's the thing also about like how important it is to know yourself and also to know that you're a projector. Like, it's like, I know that I am never going to wake up in the morning and take a shower. Like, I just know that about myself. I am going to hit snooze. I'm going to be in my bed. I'm going to be warm, and I'm going to go not showered, you know? And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to just shower the night before. I'm going to like take my time, really relax, you know, like even though I'm not getting enough sleep, because I already knew I wasn't even going to be able to fall asleep until about 2 in the morning, you know? And so I just gave myself that time and like created this like really relaxing experience. And I think that's really important for projectors, and especially if you have like your root center defined and, you know, splenic authority connected to your root, you know, we talk about that a lot. Your nervous system, your central nervous system, and like your adrenals are like so super affected. So it's really important that you take care of how your body functions, how much rest you're getting, what your blood sugar is like, you know, like all of that is like super super important for projectors and splenic authorities connecting to their root. But then the next day, you know, like today, I've had the most magical day. Literally every single thing that could have ever gone right went right. And I like, it's like this thing of like trusting the universe. Like when you go and you follow your strategy and authority, even if like this day had nothing to do with saying no to that opportunity, you know, like they're not technically connected at all, but it's about the like vibration that I emit when I know I'm making right decisions for myself, you know? And that's why that when the opposite, when you're making decisions that are not correct for you and you feel this like pit in your stomach and it's like not sitting well with you, you know that that is affecting the entirety of your vibration. And when your vibration is affected, every single experience that you have is also affected. It is absolutely interconnected with every single thing in your life. And it's like, it's either trending in positive, like you have like positive momentum going towards like this is a correct path for you and this is a correct decision for you, or it's negatively trending with negative momentum and everything in your universe is telling you, girl, dude, this is not right for you. And it's like almost funny as like just human beings how we continue to make decisions that aren't correct for us, you know? Like it's like there are so many indicators to tell us when things are not working, when things are not right. And it's like it goes through our physical body, it goes through the amount of energy that we have, it goes through how interested we are in things, it goes through, you know, how well things are working in the environment, the experiences that we have, you know, like there are so many indicators to tell us when we're on the right track and when we're not. But then we just tend to ignore them. You know, we just go, oh, like, you know, we don't connect the dots for some reason. And we think it's just this one isolated scenario where I'm just having a bad day, or it was just that person who said this thing. And, you know, it's not the fact that I'm making incorrect decisions for my like best self, for my like highest good. It's not that, you know, it's just these random things that are happening. But it is exactly that. And the best way to know is that like when things start to function really freaking well in your life, you know, you don't need to have it all figured out. The universe has got you. Like everything that you need will just beautifully arrive right in time for you when you're making correct decisions for yourself. So the last thing I actually want to mention about this is about how awesome it is to know about human design and to know about like my different like gates and channels and things, because, and to know that I'm a projector, like, dude, like having all of these skills in my toolbox is so important. I'm like, the way that I structure, I'm like, I'm gonna have I'm going to make sure that I say my affirmations, that I like meditate, that I cleanse my like aura before I go into this course. Because like I know I'm going to be around a bunch of people like absorbing their energy. And even when I'm sitting in the class and I like start to feel a bit like tense or nervous, I'm like, okay, I really have nothing to be nervous about right now. I'm like totally settled in myself. And then I had this thought and I'm like, am I nervous? Or am I picking up on the other people who are nervous, And as projectors, we do that, we fricking do that. And then I'm like, I have this strategy now. I'm like, okay, this isn't mine. I'm not nervous, I'm here, I'm learning, I'm loving it. And I'm like, and I can just take a few deep breaths and I can like relax my body and I can remind myself, and I'm like, none of these feelings are mine. None of this energy is mine. I am a calm person. I'm relaxed. I'm here to learn. I have nothing to be nervous about right now. And so I think that it's so cool to have that strategy in your toolbox, because we go through life and we pick up all these people's different energies and we think that they're ours, and we let them like dictate who we are and how we think about ourselves, like what our identity is, but it's up to us to really decipher like what is ours and what is not ours. Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say about this, yeah, it's about this like my gate 52 and my conscious sun. I am always like super still whenever I'm like out, if I'm at a conference or whatever, and there's like people sitting around and we're all in chairs. I usually find like a posture, a position that feels good, that's like in alignment, because I'm a fitness professional and I have a connective tissue disorder, so like posture is my life. So I want to always maintain a like healthy aligned posture so that I'm not in pain, otherwise I'm like, it's excruciating, right? So I find a posture and I settle into that posture and I typically don't move. And that's my gate 52. And then I was like my whole life so self-conscious about that I'm like, oh, I'm just like, it just feels like I'm so like rigid, but if I'm there and I don't feel like I need to shift and move around, like, why do I have to? Really, I'm just like holding it down in this position, feeling awesome and having proper alignment in my body. And so something that I used to feel self-conscious about, I'm like, you know what? This is a superpower. I'm sure people look at me and they're like, wow, I wish I could have like such great posture like that. Like I'm totally reframing the perspective I had, that instead of people looking at me like I'm like this rigid person, they're probably thinking something totally different, because I know it's coming from like a really good place and it's not coming from like me being insecure and not wanting to move, like that's a different thing. It's me being like totally comfortable being still, right? So I think there are so many things in our lives that we can honor and appreciate by knowing our like different elements of our design, and then the one last part I will say about this is about the projector, aura, and how differently I live my life now. Like I didn't check, but like I've probably had like 4 hours of sleep. And normally what I would do is I would like finish the course and I would go to Costco and I would have like this big Costco shopping experience, and I'd go from like thing to thing to thing, and I'd be exhausted thinking I'm like, oh, I'm running on fumes, and like look at how much I can do when I've just had 4 hours of sleep, like insane. But this time I'm like, before I went into Costco, I found a place to park and I locked my doors and I closed my eyes and I put on some binaural beats and I meditated and I just like calmed my body and calmed my nervous system, and I took a moment just to quiet my mind, right? Because it's not like I'm not tired, I just didn't feel it in that moment. So I did like a little like maintenance break before I felt like super exhausted. And so it gave me a little bit of boost so that I could, drive home, and I had a granola bar. So I had the blood sugar thing that's being maintained, super important. If you have, a really long, intense day, and especially if you haven't had enough sleep, make sure you are maintaining your blood sugar. And I actually have a friend who's a nutritionist, and she said that maintaining your blood sugar with any food item is better than allowing your blood sugar to dip because you don't have something healthy to eat. And that has like stuck with me, and I totally follow that philosophy, and I absolutely agree with it, because like at the end of the day, if you have a granola bar or something that like you're slightly intolerant to, like I am, like granola I'm intolerant to, but if I have that and it gives me the energy and it maintains my blood sugar and it allows me to like safely drive home and to like not get into that like dip of like extreme exhaustion, then I'm actually doing way more for my body, and I'm taking care of my body in a better way than going, oh, I'm not going to have that granola bar because I'm intolerant to it and it's like not the best thing for my body. Not having balanced blood sugar is worse for your body than eating the thing that's intolerant for you. And I'm not saying it should be like every single time you do this and you know, you follow this rule and you're like, well, I watched this video and blah, blah, blah. I'm saying that like in a dire setting, when you go blood sugar or intolerant, choose blood sugar every time. And then the last thing, oh yes, about, closing my eyes. And then I'm here. I feel like I'm like riding this high of like making this video. But I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to go home and I'm not going to do anything else. I am giving myself the rest of the day off just to relax and take a nap, you know, and like read and just be my like projector self. And typically I would not do this. I would just go, you know, like I feel pretty okay. Maybe I'll go to sleep earlier if I don't take a nap. But nah, I need a nap. I'm exhausted. And I am doing this as like a maintenance nap. I'm doing this before I experience extreme exhaustion, you know? And like, I'm analyzing the gauge of my energy, you know? Because that's what it's all about. It's about energy management, energy mastery, right? So this is a really long story. And, you know, I have gate 33 in my chart. And I thrive on reflecting on experiences and then sharing those experiences and connecting them to, you know, different elements of human design and spirituality and just life, you know, how everything functions together. Everything is interconnected. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are able to apply certain elements to your own chart and to your own like projector aura, because my number one mission is to share how I have adjusted my life after finding out I'm a projector, and then all of the like awesome shit that happens because of that, you know, strategy and authority, following your design, and everything functions beautifully. So we're at 33 minutes right now, and it seems like the perfect time to end this video. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye.